Welcome, friends. It is good to see you. I've got my coffee. By the way, don't judge me. This is I don't know if any of you know what that is, but this is my wife's cup. It was bigger than my other one, and I needed more coffee this afternoon. So that's the Pioneer Woman. We went to the Mercantile. We took an RV trip. Oh, it was probably a couple of months ago to go see their location. It was fun. It was good. Well, man, we don't get this very often. This is 2 nights in a row or 2 afternoons in a row about the same time. We went live yesterday with an exciting conversation with Dr. Jerry Gladson. I've gotten really nothing but good reviews and good interaction with that. I appreciate the feedback. Excited to get him back on the show. We'll be getting that scheduled over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, do grab a cup of coffee. I see some of you are cooking while this is going on. Thank you. I love that. I love that you're just doing life as we get into the Word of God. Today is going to be a fun one. Man, there are some passages in Revelation that I just get really jacked about. I get really excited about. And today's conversation is going to be one of those. I love having this conversation about the angel of the Lord and, the man in linen and Gabriel and Michael and all kinds of fun stuff. So I do want to mention, as I normally do, a couple of books. One, I thought I had grabbed the right book off the shelf. It's by the same scholar. I'll get to that one in just a second. But one book that we're going to be referencing a little bit is actually this book here by Michael Heiser. It's a book called Angels. I don't know if this is his, I think this is his third, might be his fourth. I can't remember exactly. He's got quite a few of them. The Unseen Realm just came out with an expanded research edition. There is a kind of a layman's version of that called Supernatural, what the Bible teaches about the unseen realm. And then there's a really interesting one called The Bible Unfiltered, Approaching Scripture on Its Own Terms. I dare you not to bore me with the Bible. Then he came out with a Reversing Hermon, Enoch, The Watchers, and the Forgotten Mission of Jesus Christ. And then he's got a couple of novels that, if you're into novels, like sci-fi novels, he's got The Facade and The Portent. But this one is what the Bible really says about God's heavenly host. So I will be referencing that particular book. And then if you were on the show last night, I mentioned actually a scholar that I met at SBL, Society of Biblical Literature. My wife and I are going again this year down at, this one will be in Boston. But the scholar's name is Carmen Imes. She actually teaches at Biola. Fabulous scholar. I think this is actually her second book. The one that we're going to be referencing is actually in the back. It's actually this one. It's called Carmen Imes, Bearing God's Name. This one is Bearing God's Image. And she has got another one out about the family. And then she's doing a commentary right now. It's not out. She's doing a really deep commentary on Exodus. You should check out her YouTube channel if you haven't already. She does like Torah Tuesday and just a really, really, really well-rounded scholar. I have talked to her about several things. She's the one that actually helped me with the actual lettering up there, which is actually going to be something that we're going to be talking about as we get into Revelation, as well as the lettering on this tattoo as well. If I was going to put something on my body, I wanted to make sure it was actually right. So I consulted a Hebrew scholar to make sure I'm putting the right lettering. So she was the one that actually put the script together for me. Just a wonderful lady, fabulous scholar. I've talked to her about the concept of Sabbath and about the law and about Exodus and about all kinds of things. So hoping I'll be able to, my wife and I will be able to see her again at the next SBL. So those are the books. This is technically not the one we're going to reference today. We're going to be referencing the one that's called Bearing God's Name. That book is actually, as is most books, I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but most academic books come out of people's dissertations when they do their PhD. So the first book that Carmen Imes wrote is actually out of her dissertation. Same is true with Dr. Heiser as well. His kind of magnus opus with the Unseen Realm came out of his dissertation, some of his dissertation work. So that's true with many of the scholars that get into writing. But there will be a couple of others. I'm going to reference, if we get to it, Alan Siegel as well today, which I have referenced. If you have not joined I think many of you that are watching currently are already a part of the Discord channel. If you're not, please do scan the code, jump into the channel, because this is going to be, I tend to just put all this content there. It doesn't erase, it doesn't disappear. You get access to it. If you're wanting to help support, as I always say, check out the Patreon account. I am grateful. I had someone help support this morning. Thank you. I won't be naming names, but I appreciate that. All of the donations that are given through the Patreon or through the donate button that is on the website, thethinkingcup.com. Any of those go to the same thing, and it's two items. So you can either go to the website and do this, or you can go through Patreon. I'd encourage you to do it through Patreon, because by doing so, you'll get some private access to some, Patreon only channels inside of Discord that gives you access to some of my academic pursuits and articles I'm writing and things of that nature. But the support that you guys provide financially only goes to two things: the upkeep of the website and any kind of cost as it relates to writing and researching on the website. And then secondarily, it will go to my master's program. DTS, by the way, has a fabulous program, just so everyone knows. They've got a really neat setup with regards to their master's program. I am in the THM program, which is a master's of theology. What that means, just so all of you are aware, what that means is that it is a, number one, is the most rigorous. It's their flagship program, but it is the most rigorous. It's 120 hours. Generally takes at minimum 4 hours up to 4 years, up to 8 years. It'll probably take me 5 or 6 years to complete. One of the biggest things I'm excited about with regards to that program, two things. Number one, I will get 5 semesters of Greek. So it'll be beginner, intermediate, and advanced Greek. And then I will get 4 credit semesters of Hebrew as well. And to this statement, and I'm glad you brought it up. That was probably one of my biggest concerns, because I am not a dispensationalist. But what's interesting is, just in the little bit that I've been there, there's a lot of people that attend DTS that are not dispensational and that do not become dispensational. It is a great place to learn what that exactly is. As is true with anything, I think, most labels or categories kind of get caricaturized a little bit and kind of get pigeonholed into certain things. Yes, DTS is by like doctrinal statements. If you teach at DTS, you do have to affirm the dispensational position. But even inside dispensationalism, there's 8 different variants. Okay. So there's a lot there. It isn't really what everyone, I think, on the outside thinks it is. Just like if you used to be an Adventist and you find out what it means to be a Presbyterian or a Luther or a Methodist or a whatever, a Reformed whatever, or a Catholic, usually it's not exactly what you think it is. DTS, it's a good question, Adrian. DTS stands for Dallas Theological Seminary, DTS. So they are housed out of Dallas, which is great. I'm hoping beginning of this next year, I've got a conference meeting that's not related to DTS that I'm hoping to go actually see the campus. So I say all that to tell you I'm excited. I'm currently doing 5 credit hours. Take that back, 6 credit hours. And then next semester, I will be doing 9 credit hours, which is full time. It's about 20 to 25 hours a week of dedicated focus. So it's requiring me to be very, very intentional, focused. My family is in full support. Again, I would be very, very, very grateful if you all felt convicted or interested in supporting in any way. I will end with this on DTS, on the seminary program. They have what's called a now I can't even remember the name of it. Their financial program is set up in this way: 120 hours. The first third is on your own financially or financial support. With that first third, I am going to be able to, for the first 12 months here, I will be testing out of roughly 9 classes. I can test out of up to 40 credit hours. I won't be able to test out of any of the Greek and Hebrew because I don't have a lot of Greek and Hebrew already. So, having said that, my goal is to get as close to the number of credit hours, as close to 40 as I possibly can by the end of my first year, so that the way DTS is set up, the second 40 hours are actually half price, which is incredible. DTS is set up for $750 per credit hour, so it's not school. It's it's considered one of the top in the nation. And if you come out of their THM program, you can practically get your PhD from anywhere, under anyone. And that is my intention, just so you all know, is to go further and get my PhD. I'm not sure exactly where or under who. So the second 40 will be at half cost, and then the final 40 is entirely free. So it's a really interesting program. My goal is to get, with you guys' financial help, and with obviously means that my wife and I have saved and utilized through our business, we'll get through the first 40 as quickly as possible, and then we'll get into the second half, which obviously will be half off, and then we'll be on into the final third, which is entirely free. So pretty interesting program and scholarship program. All right, that is enough about me. My last thing would be just, if you wouldn't mind, please hit the like, subscribe, share, all that jazz, so that others can know what we're doing. All right, let's have a quick word of prayer, and then we will dive straight in. We are in Revelation chapter 10. We're going to kick it off at the very beginning of 10, but let's have a word of prayer first. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these beautiful people that are here live, as well as those that will be watching later. I pray that you would just, in a very special way, that you would show up for them, that you would, that they would feel your presence, that the Holy Spirit would fill their lives, that they would walk in a way that honors you and glorifies you. I pray that this study would be something that honors you as well. Revelation is such a fascinating book and letter. I know that it's very confusing at times, and I just pray that most importantly, we would image you well in the way that we interpret, study, dig into your word. We believe that your word is inspired. We believe it is true. We believe that it embodies who you are. And we also understand that it is mysterious in many ways. And so I ask that we would set aside our pride, our ego. I ask that you would fill us with humility and repentance. And from that posture, I pray that we would seek you as we study today together. We love you. We pray all these things in your precious name. Amen. All right, friends, let's dive in. So I'm going to kick this off. I want to read, directly from the beginning. This is one of the shorter chapters with regards to Revelation, and so I'm just going to read through kind of the first. It's 11. What is it? 11 verses. It's not long. Okay. It's very, very reasonable from that standpoint. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to read through the entire chapter, and then we're going to focus on kind of one aspect. It's going to require us to get into Daniel quite a bit today, but let's start in verse 1. I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire. He held a little scroll open in his hand, setting his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. He gave a great shout like a lion roaring, and when he shouted, the seven thunders sounded. And when the seven thunders had sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up what the seven thunders have said, and do not write it down." Then the angel who I saw standing on the sea and the land raised his right hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and what is in it, the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it. There will be no more delay. But in the days when the seventh angel is to blow his trumpet, the mystery of God will be fulfilled, as he announced to his servant, the prophets. Then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, "Go, take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went to the angel and told him to give me the little scroll, and he said to me, "Take it and eat. It will be bitter in your stomach, but sweet as honey in your mouth." So I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. Then they said to me, "You must prophesy again about what peoples and nations and languages and kings." All right. I'm sure if you're coming here from a tradition that has some sort of eschatology or a system, or you've been taught a system of approaching Revelation, some of these verses may have triggered what I call Revelation PTSD, or some sort of this is what I was taught. What I want to point out, though, I hope that you recognize that this passage sounds a lot like Daniel. Or maybe not Daniel. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We're going to get to Daniel 10. We're going to actually go to Daniel 10 in a little bit. But I want to look at the angel language in the passage. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up to the top. I want to look at the angel language, okay, as we scroll through chapter 10. Notice that we have, just kind of notice another angel coming down from heaven. I'm not going to interpret a lot here, but I want you to notice that this is the same language as fallen, okay, as coming down, okay? It's the same concept, okay? Wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. So you've got a mighty angel coming down from heaven. You've got wrapped in a cloud. You have a rainbow over his head. It says the face was like the sun and his legs like pillars of fire. So you've got wrapped in the cloud, rainbow over his head. So you got the clothing, you got the head, you got the face, you got the legs. All of these elements should be reasonably familiar if you studied Daniel at all. The wrapped in a cloud part, anyone want to guess where that kind of comes from? If you've got, again, Daniel is apocalyptic in nature, and so it shouldn't surprise you that this is kind of coming from Daniel. But anyone want to venture to guess what part of Daniel that wrapped in a cloud might come from? I know there's a delay, so I'll see in the chat in just a second. But this is Daniel 7, probably, the Son of Man language. But if you actually go back, excellent, Adrian, you got it. If you go back and look at Daniel 7, if you actually go back and peruse through Daniel 7, Let's get down here. Night sky considered. I watched thrones set up, ancient of day. His clothing was white as snow. The court sat in judgment. And then you get this, I saw one like a human coming with the clouds of heaven. It's kind of like it, but it's not. Okay. It's not precisely the same thing. In fact, the Son of Man, okay, the human entity in Daniel 7, comes with the clouds or on the clouds. Now, I mentioned, okay, I showed you all earlier this up here. This Lion of Judah that's on my arm, the Greek or the Hebrew, sorry, that's at the very top is a phrase taken out of the Psalter that actually references the cloud rider, which Adrian had mentioned in the live chat as well. This is a very important messianic phrase, okay? And it kind of depends on how you translate it. Is it with the clouds? Is it on the clouds? In Daniel specifically, he's not wrapped in a cloud. But again, there's similarities that we would be seeing, okay? Then we have this rainbow, right? Verse 3. And the one seated there looks like jasper. I'm sorry. I'm in this is where the reference for it. But in Revelation 10, you've got with a rainbow over his head. The rainbow over his head should probably trigger you to think about earlier Revelation 4:3, where it references this rainbow idea. Okay, we got jasper, cornelian, and around the throne is a rainbow that looks like an emerald, has an appearance like an emerald. And again, it sounds a little bit like, okay, chapter 4 in some regards, or at least chapter 4, verse 3, sounds a little bit like chapter 10. But if you pay attention very closely to chapter 4, or if you remember our dialogue on chapter 4 of Revelation, you remember that this is speaking of God. So to this point, we've got one line that sort of sounds like the Son of Man, who is a deity figure in Daniel 7. And if you're not familiar with the cloud rider motif, or if you don't remember, I have mentioned that a little bit. It's an entire motif. Motif just means a theme that gets brought up to kind of to claim a certain thing. We have a messianic motif. We have what's called name theology, where, bear the name. The angel has the name. That's a motif. It's kind of a theme. So the cloud rider is a motif that's used only of Yahweh in the Old Testament. And there are 4 times where it's only used of Yahweh. You remember, we should have hopefully remembered that we talked about this previously. Okay, there was 4 times that it's used in reference to Yahweh, and there's a 5th time that occurs in Daniel 7, the one that we looked at. But in Daniel 7, it's not used of the Ancient of Days. Remember, this son of one like the Son of Man is presented to the Ancient of Days, but this is a Son of Man. This is not this is not Yahweh. Okay, this is something else. The Ancient of Days is understood as God, but this deity, what would be considered a deity epithet, is used for or to represent the Son of Man. It's a title. It's a deity title. And again, that is partially why in my tattoo, I have it in the actual the mane of the Lion of Judah. Out of the Lion of Judah is this messianic figure that ends up going to the cross and ends up being the ultimate sacrifice. So if you recall in our conversation when we discussed Revelation 4:3, the rainbow discussion in that particular dialogue, I don't know if any of you remember where this came from or what we referenced Revelation 4:3, because that was like months ago. But if you have really good memory or if you've gotten really good notes, you'll remember that this kind of rainbow reference is coming from Ezekiel 1:28. That's probably the anchor. This is the famous vision of Ezekiel in chapter 1, where you have God seated on the throne, and you have this rainbow language coming up here in Ezekiel 1:28, like the bow in a cloud on a rainy day. Such was the appearance of the splendor all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory. When I saw it, I fell on my face and I heard the voice of someone speaking. So this bow in the cloud is this rainbow concept, okay? Now, this is what John, I think, this is what John, and this is what we referred to before, is picking up on in Revelation 4:3 when he's talking about. But remember, Revelation 4 is about God. That's what Revelation 4 is about. It's a reference to God. So what in the world is with the mighty angel reference when we go back to Revelation 10? What is with, notice this, just pay attention. I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud with the rainbow over his head. This should catch you. This should really kind of make you double take what's going on, because this is an angel that is getting language ascribed to it that would normally be conceived of as deity descriptors. Why? Why would you have this? We're going to dialogue on why this is the case. Now, then you have another line here. It says his face was like the sun. Now, the face being like the sun, again, if you've really locked into John's apocalyptic letter here, you're going to remember Revelation 1:16. Revelation 1:16, in his right hand he held 7 stars, and from his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining with full force. Now, if we continue through this, when I saw him and fell at his feet as though dead, I fell at his feet as though dead, but he placed his right hand on me, saying, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last and the living one. I was dead, and see, I am alive forever and ever, and I have the keys to death and Hades." Now, just pay attention that this is a reference, okay? Notice that what this is referring to. If we go back to verse 12, then I turned to see whose voice it was that was speaking to me. And I saw 7 golden lampstands. And in the middle of those lampstands, what did he see? We get this reference again. I saw the one like the Son of Man, clothed with a long robe and with a golden sash around his chest, his head. Now, if you remember when we talked about this last, this language, this clothed with a long robe, golden sash around his chest, hair as white as wool, white as snow, his eyes were like flaming fire, the feet, the furnace, like all of these things. All of these, this is the passage where we have Jesus is being described in Daniel 7 language. Jesus is being described in Daniel 7. And it's not only the Son of Man stuff that you would have expected. Again, go back to Daniel 7. Come down here. Notice, what language are we getting? This is not just Son of Man language. This is language that is being ascribed in Daniel to the Ancient of Days, to the Ancient One. And that language, those descriptions, those descriptors, those deity titles, the way the Ancient of Days is being described is being transferred, is being transposed onto Jesus. Now, John is doing both here. Okay? When we go back to, let's see, Daniel 7, let's see. This is, John is going to end up doing both of these. He's going to ascribe Ancient of Day language. He's going to ascribe Son of Man language. He's going to do, you have all of that in Revelation 10, except it's like a lion. You don't have it's like a lion that comes up in Daniel. Okay? So where I want you to, if you remember the language, in his right hand, he held 7 stars. This is actually Revelation 1, verse, here it is, Revelation 1, verse 15, his feet, okay? In his right hand, he held the 7 stars, and with his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun. So all of this, okay, you get the face language, face like the sun. That's Revelation 10, which is used. This is what's important. It's used for this mighty angel. It's used. All of this is now being ascribed to a mighty angel. But remember, back in Revelation 1, where we just came from, that was on the screen, it's ascribed to Jesus. Now, don't freak out, okay? Because some of you might be going, wait, is Jesus an angel? Don't freak out, okay? Don't jump there yet, okay? It's a pretty precise situation where deity descriptors are being described to Jesus, but you also get some of these things being described to a mighty angel. You get the same language, actually, legs like pillars of fire, which actually comes out of, I believe that's Revelation 1:14. Okay. Actually, let's just go back and read that real quick. We've seen it a couple of times. His head, again, this is all description of Jesus, okay? The Son of Man, okay? His head and hair were white as wool, white as snow. His eyes were like the flame of fire. And just notice, like this, all of this, actually, let me go down to verse 16. Okay, his face shining in full force. All of this is connected to Matthew 17, the transfiguration of Jesus. I mean, just notice the face, the clothes, the bright light. That's more than likely in the vantage point or in the view of John. Okay. Legs like pillars of fire, which is from Revelation 1:14, is also used for Jesus. It's not an exact or a precise case, but it's close. If you go back to, let's go back to Revelation 1:14, you see his eyes uh, discussed as like flames of fire. So again, you get this notion that there's some sort of, you should feel some sort of relationship going on between these passages, the descriptions, the transfiguration, Jesus, Son of Man, deity, Ancient of Days, all of this stuff. Now, the eyes like fire, you're going to get the eyes like fire in a couple of places. You're going to get, let me see here. Don't think that's in, I'm just checking my passages here. Where is, actually my notes I think are wrong in this case. Let me, you know what? I'm just going to do something that y'all can see what I do. Okay? This is what I do. You can just see what I'm going to check this because my notes aren't showing up right. I am going to go to a search. I am going to isolate this search to Revelation. And I want to look for eyes in Revelation. Yeah, my notes. My notes were wrong. Okay, I was going to say Revelation 2:8. I had typed it wrong. It's 2:18, and we can see that right here. Okay, so Revelation 2:18. Again, just checking and making sure that I'm doing it right. If we scroll down to chapter 2, verse 18, is where we get the eyes like flame of fire, like a flame of fire. You're going to get it again later on. That was early on. You're going to get it again, Revelation 19, verse 12. Here you get his eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems. Those are crowns. He has a name inscribed that no one knows but himself. We're going to talk about name theology, that motif eventually as we go through this. So, what in the world is going on here? We have this mighty angel. This mighty angel is described in ways that Jesus is described. Ways that God is described, the Ancient of Days. How this is, how do we reconcile this? Like what do we think John is saying here? How do we reconcile Jesus and God, who are uncreated, eternal beings? The whole if you're Christian here, you're hopefully a triune Christian. I would argue it would be hard to be a Christian and not accept the triune God. But how do you reconcile that with a mighty angel getting described in the same way? Now, I'm going to make a suggestion here. As I have always said, you don't have to agree with me. Go study it, okay? I'm going to suggest that this isn't, in what I'm going to share with you isn't really, again, it's not new to me. It's not like I'm making something up. You're going to find this among other scholars. What I'm going to share with you is actually part of really an entire discipline known as Jewish Christology. It's also known as Jewish binatarian monotheism. I know that's a mouthful. So I'm going to say it again, Jewish Christology, as well as Jewish binatarian monotheism. Now, you probably have heard me say it differently. I referenced this in the Alan Seagal work. Yes, Adrian, you're 100% right. Okay. It is the two powers in heaven, I think, concept that's probably the best way to reconcile this. Again, this is my opinion. There are other scholars that would see it the same way. There are some that don't see it this way, and that's okay. I'm just sharing kind of where I think this would land. This is the case where scholars are going to call this also, if they don't use the Jewish binitarian monotheism, that's a mouthful, it's called Angelomorphic Christology. Angelomorphic Christology. A lot of big words today. And it's similar to John's earlier merging of certain kind of Old Testament passages about the Son of Man, where he merges that with the Ancient of Days to point to Christ, point to Jesus as the Messiah, as the Savior, as the reigning King, the sovereign King. The difference, though, is here in this particular situation, in this case, we're going to see John do something a little bit unique. He's going to combine what's called Old Testament theophanic motifs. A theophany is really just it's a place where God shows up, a theophany. Mount Sinai, with the giving of the tablets, that is considered a theophany. It's where God kind of shows up. The transfiguration would be a theophany, okay? But this is basically John combining an Old Testament theophany motif that we're used to seeing as described in three figures in the Old Testament. We're used to hearing it as God or Yahweh. Then we would kind of see it as the angel of Yahweh or the angel of the Lord. I've referenced a book called The Angel of the Lord before. You should absolutely get that book, read it, study it. It will. I should have mentioned that one actually as a reference point, but it will help. And then the third area is this divine man, and this is the key: the Son of Man, this divine man. We're going to get into this, who is greater in authority than both Gabriel and Michael. Okay, and I'm going to prove that point. I'm going to be very specific and prove that point today. We're going to go through some of these. I hope we've got enough time to do it. So these three figures, you've got God, the angel of the Lord, who is God. Okay, that's the two Yahwehs concept, the two powers. And then there's this character in Daniel, this divine man, who is above Gabriel and above Michael in the book of Daniel. He's never given a name. He's just described. He's just this like mystery. Okay, it's this cryptic figure. Those three figures are described in certain ways in Daniel 10. Those three figures. So this is what you would call in scholarly parlance, okay, angelomorphic Christology. There's a whole division of academia that talks about and dissects and discusses angelomorphic Christology, okay, where this angel figure is a figure that has Christ ideas or the Christology concept. Okay. Now I'm gonna reference Dr. Michael Heiser here as I mentioned this book right here, Angels by Dr. Michael. It's not a very long book. It's reasonably easy to read. It's a fun read. It does have lots of great footnotes. I mean, it's not crazy, right? So it's got lots of footnotes. It's not horribly long. Let's see. It is, it's only like 177 pages, but the bibliography goes from the bibliography goes from page 179 all the way to 191. So you've got like 22 pages of resources that you can use to study this stuff. That's what I love about academic books. So Michael Heiser is going to argue, as I share, he's going to argue that this figure in Revelation 10 is the second person of the Trinity appearing as a man. He's going to call he's called an angel here in this particular situation because the Old Testament angel of Yahweh motif kind of it categorizes this entity in this way, and so this is why you would consider this or categorize it as the study of Jewish Christology or Jewish binitarian monotheism, which is called Angelomorphic Christology. Now, I do want to explore the idea a little bit with regards to potential connections. Okay, so I don't think my internet's struggling. Hopefully, it's not struggling. I just asked it. I asked it earlier if it was struggling, and it said it wasn't. Hopefully it's not, it looks like Strange Sky. It looks like one of those translated movies again. I don't know what is going on. Why is it doing that? I don't understand, friends. Hopefully, we're just going to keep pushing. You'll have to ignore the poor quality. I don't know why. I really have no understanding why it's doing that. I apologize, friends. So I want to explore this connection. The point of this category, this angelomorphic Christology, just so that I'm not, misunderstood or hopefully not misquoted, or, who knows if some Adventist apologists will rip this out. I want to make sure that I'm not misunderstood. Okay. Angelomorphic Christology is not that the risen Christ was an angel and therefore created. That is not what angelomorphic Christology is. Okay, that's not the point of the academic discussion. That's not the way this dialogue goes. The whole idea goes all the way back to the angel of the Lord, who is Yahweh. He isn't created. There's no connection back to this idea that he's an angelic created being. That would be like Jehovah's Witnesses concept coming through. That's not what this is, okay? This category, this language is designed to associate the risen Christ with the angel, who is God. That's why the category gets labeled the way it does. Okay, it's actually pretty easy to get this wrong on lots of angles. People tend to say things that aren't really there, or they'll and they're not going to see the close association between Yahweh himself and his angel in the Old Testament. They just don't see it, so they get it wrong. Okay, once you discern these two Yahweh figures, and once you have that in your head, and I'm going to say this, a really, really, really good thing to snag on this. I'll put this in the chat. Well, no, I'll put it on screen. This Alan Siegel and Two Powers in Heaven. If you want to read up on this, that's the most academic to date work that works through the Jewish literature on this exact topic. Okay, so once you have that in your head, you can pretty easily parse out what's going on. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, let's dive in. When we get to Revelation 10:1, okay, When we get to, then I saw another, this word another mighty angel coming down from heaven, or another mighty angel. I don't know how your language or your translation actually references it. I want to go to David Allen real quick to talk about this another. Okay, this in the Greek, it's alyon. Okay, Idan, alyon, ishkairon. This another mighty angelon. So I want to go over to David Allen. This is in his commentary from the Word Biblical Commentary. And hopefully this is clear enough for y'all to see. I hope, anyways. But I'm going to read it here. It says the alyon, this Greek word alyon, another, apparently refers to the only mighty angel mentioned earlier in Revelation 5:2 on the phrase mighty angel. He kind of has a reference. Now, von Stock argues that while this angel is modeled after the angel in Daniel 12:5-7, his words and message are charged enough so that the author refers to him as this phrase. Okay. Now, Charles, which is another academic, okay, this is, let me look at the actual reference here real quick. This Charles is the one that wrote this academic work. R.H. Charles, his critical and exegetical commentary on the revelation of St. John. Okay. Charles has speculated that Gabriel could be identified as the mighty angel, since the Hebrew term Gibor, mighty one, can refer to Gabriel, which means mighty one of God. There is, however, no reason to suppose that the author had any particular angel in view. This is a formal link between two text units that deal with scrolls. Bauckham, that's Richard Bauckham, argues that the unique role of this angel and the majestic way in which he is described suggests that he should be identified with the centrally significant revelatory angel of Revelation 1:1 and chapter 22, verse 16, because it is the scroll in Revelation 10 that contains the primary content of John's prophetic revelation. Number one, these are his three main points for Bauckham. God gave the revelation to Jesus Christ. Revelation 1 says the Lamb received the scroll from the hand of the one who's seated on the throne. Number two, the revelation of Jesus Christ equals the Lamb opened the roll and reveals its contents. Number three, he had it known by sending his angel to his servant John. The angel brings the open scroll from heaven and gives it to John. So, what Bauckham is saying, y'all are loving the. I apologize that the text is. It more than likely, if I'm guessing, guys and girls, it's probably because my kids are doing probably homeschool videos, and that's probably what's happening if I were to guess. So it is what it is for the time being. Hopefully they won't take up all the bandwidth. So what Bauckham is saying here is that the revelation given to Jesus, and it is given to Jesus. Jesus being the Lamb itself, and the Lamb opening the scroll, and then the scroll getting handed to John. All of these things in the text are interconnected in these passages. That it's a flow of thought. Okay. Now, the first two observations that Bauckham mentions have the revelation given to Jesus, who is the Lamb. That's kind of obvious. Okay, so Bauckham goes on to note. He actually mentions, okay, Revelation 1:1. It says, and this text might be a tad bit different, but the latter part of Revelation 1:1, and he made it known by sending his angel to his servant John. Now, I want you to pay close attention, because what makes it sound like Jesus cannot be, it kind of makes it, at least the text, I'll put it back on the screen, okay? This text, and he made it known by sending his angel to his servant John. That kind of makes it sound or feel like Jesus cannot be this angel. Now, just for fairness, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to actually read, because I don't have it in text form here, but I'm going to read a transcript from a podcast of Dr. Heiser. And I want you to kind of hear what Dr. Heiser, he's going to push back on this idea. Okay, so this is from one of his podcasts. He says this, Dr. Heiser says this: if the content of Revelation 1:1 is supposed to have Jesus play the role of God in the Old Testament, and he says, in effect, occupying the God slot in the two powers pattern of the Old Testament, then Jesus and the angel can be co-identified. You can still do that. In the book of Revelation, you have the risen Christ being portrayed in this way, and the angel language is used of him to take the reader's mind back to the angel who is God in the Old Testament. That's the trajectory that and that's Heiser, that Heiser is going to suggest. And this isn't, he goes on and says, this is not unique to me. This is something that gets discussed in the two powers discussion more broadly in New Testament scholarship. Okay, so let's kind of look at this concept a little bit. And I'm going to do this by way of illustration. I want to go to Exodus 23. And if you remember Exodus 23 and the details of Exodus 23, you've got this false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to ask of its malicious witness. If you keep scrolling down, and we're going to get to verse 20, okay? Verse 20 to 23, I want to read this. I am going to send an angel in front of you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Be attentive to him and listen to his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. But if you listen attentively to his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. When my angel goes in front of you and brings you to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites, not the parasites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and I blot them out. You shall not bow down to their gods or serve them or follow their practices, but you shall utterly demolish them and break their pillars in pieces. So, in this passage up at the top, okay, I want you to notice that the passage has God. God is the sender. I am going to send an angel, right? I am sending this angel. But yet, the angel is referred to as my angel. I'm sending an angel, but yet the angel is referred to as my angel who has God's name in him. He is God. So it's as if God is sending himself in this angelic form, in this messenger form. Now, it's the same kind of language that we get with regards to name theology. I mentioned this earlier. I'm just going to show this to you briefly. There's an entire study on this, okay? I'm just going to read this it's a conceptual theory that claims God's presence was considered imminently present in the temple and thought to be espoused in the putative J and E sources. Also claims that a later author redactor known as Deuteronomist recast and corrected the former history to reveal that God was only present in the temple hypostatically through his name. It's a theory, it's an idea, it's a motif, it's a concept that connects this name idea, okay? That if God's name is in something, he is that. He is God if it has its name. Now, I can't remember if we've done a bunch of, I don't think I've referenced this much, okay? But if you want to pick up Carmen Imes' book, it's not this book, okay? But this is in her series. I'll actually go to the Well, that was fun. Y'all are like, how am I still chatting? Hopefully y'all can hear me. I don't think my laptop is appreciating the amount of work um, that I'm doing with. So the reason why I was able to chat is I jumped on my phone and I actually was chatting in the chat itself. Um, I literally don't know what happened. My computer, like everything just went blank. Everything shut down. So I have a feeling that my as uh, I would agree. I think that I need to invest in a in a maybe a cooling platform. Maybe that's what I need in order to keep things kind of on the down low with that. All right, let me get I don't even have my notes back up. So I'm pulling those up as we speak. I was referencing when things went south. I was referencing Carmen Imes and her book. Just again, this is not the book I would say that you need to actually. I mean, you can get this book, but the one that you'll find with the name Theology is this particular book, and it's Bearing God's Name. So, Flying Gentle, that is a great question. I have not released any of these notes yet. I may do that. I could potentially do that for you. Those of you that aren't aware, if you go to my website, go to thethinkingcup.com. In the very top part of the Thinking Cup, there is a section that's called knowledge base, I think. And that is my Obsidian like writing world, my knowledge base. And I don't currently have these notes in Obsidian. They're actually in my Logos database. But that might be something that I can work on over time. I have not launched all of this in that place yet. But thank you for reminding me of that. Awesome. All right. My notes are back up. Let me scroll to where I was at. Let me find where I was discussing all of this. Thank you guys for being so patient. Where were we at? We were working through Exodus 23, 20 to 23. And as Adrian caught, it is not the parasites. We were talking about name theology. So, okay. So there's actually quite a few places in Scripture that deal with this name theology. Exodus 23, Genesis 48 are two kind of key places where you have these two Yahweh figures, one invisible and transcendent, the other one visible. Yahweh coming in human form as a human, not incarnation. That's different. We get that later on. But in the Old Testament, you have this concept of God shows up in a human form. Genesis 48 is I think Genesis 48 is where he has a meal with Abraham. I believe that's the one. But that's an easy one to remember. This entity shows up and has a meal with Abraham. Clearly, that's anthropomorphic kind of concepts. All that means is that there's human entities or human things that are ascribed to something that normally wouldn't have human things. But how else is Abraham going to be able to identify these angels and the God figure if he doesn't show up in a way that humans can see him? And so Again, it's not the incarnation. That's totally different. That's a New Testament concept. But the form of a man in the Old Testament, and oftentimes that man, that thing, is called the angel. He's also called, you should catch this from John's gospel, he's also called the Word, and the Word was God, right? He's also called the Name. He's also the one who rides the clouds. All of these concepts, these motifs, they're all related. But God, here's what I want to mention. God can send an angel and say, this angel, my name's in that angel. You have to obey the angel because the name is in the angel. The angel is me. The angel is another way of referring to, or the name is another way of referring to God. If God's name is in something, it is God. So God is basically saying here that I'm in that angel, I'm sending him, but I'm in that particular angel. I am not an angel. Okay, God isn't Jesus isn't a created being, but he can show up in angelic form if he desires to, or his name is in that particular angel. Okay, this is the two powers concept. And I know this might be feeling like we're a dog chasing our tail around if this is a new concept to you. In other words, he's saying, I'm sending myself. That's what he's saying. This is where you get, if we're going to talk about Godhead language, this concept, the two powers concept, is Godhead language in the Old Testament. God is sent by my angel, his angel. It's also him because the name is in him. And if it feels awkward and feels weird, I get that way every time I try to explain what the Trinity is, because it's a mystery. It's difficult. It's hard to wrap around how this can all be. Okay. Now, with all of that in the back of your mind, let's take this back to Revelation 1 and back to Revelation 22. All right, let me get this back. I had forgotten that I didn't have my screen shared yet. Okay, so let's go all the way back to Revelation 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him or gave to him to show his servants. Okay, God gave Jesus. Now, John's other writings make this very, very clear. If we go back to like the Gospel of John, chapter 17, 7-8, for example, now they know that everything you have given me is from you. It's the same concept. Okay. For the words that you gave to me, I have given to them, and they have received them and know in truth that I came from you, and they have believed that you sent me. We get this in John 8:26. I have much to say about you and much to condemn, but the one who sent me is true, and I declared to the world that I have heard from him. You also get John 14, verse 20. And on that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. This is the same idea. This Johannine idea is the same. Now remember, this is John. Now, some may agree or disagree if John, who wrote the gospel, is the same John who wrote Revelation. I'd love to hear if you think that's the case or not. But this is the same concept. John is expressing that in the gospel here. God the Father giving revelation to Jesus the Son. Now, let's go back to Revelation 1:1. And I'm actually going to put, for the sake of easy dialogue for my notes, I'm going to put ESV on the screen. So the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave to him, God gave Jesus, okay? That's the him, which God gave him, Jesus, to show to his servants the things that must soon take place. He, that is God, made it known, the revelation of how, okay, by sending his angel to his servant John. Do any of you see how this can parallel the language in Exodus 23? So God's the sender. He's sending the revelation of Jesus. And how does that exactly work? Well, he's sending the revelation, and the revelation really is Jesus. The work of Jesus, more abstractly, is what's being sent. Okay. How does he make his revelation known to John? Through his angel. And again, if you read through Revelation 1, and eventually when we get to Revelation 22, okay, and let me just go to Revelation 22, verse 16. It is I, Jesus. Actually, let me go back to ESV. I just have the ESV in my notes, and so it'll make it easier as I'm reading it. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you about these things for the churches. I am the root and the descendant of David, the bright morning star. So here, Jesus is in the God position. Jesus is in the God role, sending his angel. Whereas when you go all the way back to Revelation 1:1, God is in that role, sending Jesus, his angel, i.e. his angel. Then if you go back to Revelation 10, you've got his angel who's characterized 4 or 5 different ways to look and appear the way God is and the way the angel of the Lord is, but he's nevertheless called an angel, wrapped in a cloud, a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, his legs like pillars of fire, a voice like a roaring lion. So this angel is also characterized the way Jesus is characterized by John earlier in Revelation, but he's called an angel. And all of these things are sort of similar ways of expressing, or different dynamics of expressing, the same idea. What is that idea? Well, the idea is that all of this can be summed up with 2 words: angelomorphic Christology. We're talking about Jesus, the risen Christ, as a deity figure, but using angel terminology of him to specifically link him all the way back to the Old Testament 2 powers idea of God sending an angel who really was God. Now, I get that this can be a little bit convoluted. It can be a little bit, this is weird. I had never seen this or heard this. God is the ultimate source of revelation, and Christ, the agent of that revelation, transmits it to believers. But I want you to notice in Revelation 22, verse 6, Jesus plays the God role where he's sending an angel to testify to John. The positions are interchangeable, it seems. That's the part of the interpretive problem that we have, because the language sounds so odd, but if we realize how God and the angel in the Old Testament were interchangeable, if we kind of make that connection, it's the same but different. John is, in a way, doing the same exact thing here in his revelation, in his apocalyptic letter, that the Old Testament writers were doing with God and the angel of the Lord, the 2 Yahwehs concept. This is also why you could easily reason that this mighty angel in Revelation 10 gets the angel language instead of direct deity language. John's using angel language side by side with descriptors that he earlier described both God and Jesus, the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man, with. And he does that in order to coherently unravel this idea that we need the Old Testament Godhead thinking in our minds in order to kind of unravel. Now, I know that we lost a little bit of time. I'm gonna see if we can get into this angel stuff today. So if you bear with me, I might go over just a little bit to see if I can get to this. But the angel here isn't named. This is just a mighty angel. And I'm going to agree with Aun that Charles should not assume that it's, and again, when I say Charles, that was the, I forget which work it was, but it was one of those critical exegetical commentaries by, I think it was R.H. Charles. We shouldn't just assume that this is Gabriel. That would be an assumption that has to be proved, because if you go back to Daniel, which we're gonna get there, okay? Gabriel is not the highest authority. He is not an angel described in deity terms. There's another unidentified man in Daniel that actually gets used with this term man. He's unidentified in the heavens or in the heavenlies, who is above, I said it before, I'll say it again, above Gabriel and Michael, that gets described some of these things in some of these ways. Now, I'm going to defer a little bit here to, I'm going to defer to Heiser's book, the Angel's book. And this is, did I not get the actual, let me see if I can find, man, I don't know why I didn't get the actual quote. I wanted to give you guys the quote. Mike, what you doing today? Goodness gracious. All out of sorts. All right, hang on. Let me find the quote, and then I will. All right. Let's get it. Bear with me. Here we go. We've got it. It's here. I'll find it. Here we go. Okay. Got it on the screen now. So this is in his book, Angel, and it says in Daniel 8:15-26, a man comes to assist Daniel in understanding the vision. And here's the quote, okay? When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand it. And behold, there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulah, and it called, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was frightened and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, O son of man, that the vision is for the time of the end. Now, just to be clear here, this unidentified man is speaking to Gabriel. I want you to catch that in the text. This is from Scripture, Daniel, okay? So the unidentified man, and there stood before me one having the appearance of a man, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulah, and it called. So he's this voice from the banks of the Ulah is commanding Gabriel to help Daniel make sense of this vision. And then it goes on. So he came near, and it goes on to the rest of the text. Okay. Now, Heiser's going to reference here and say the description of this assistance is our focus here. So remember, the man is assisting Daniel, and he's telling Gabriel to assist Daniel is our focus. And its wording will prompt us to return to the phrase Prince of the Host. The man Daniel sees turns out to be the angel Gabriel, but Gabriel is commanded to speak to Daniel by the voice of another man, emanating from between the banks of the Ula River, where Daniel had been when overcome by the vision. The unseen man is superior to Gabriel, for he commands him. Gabriel appears again in Daniel to interpret the subsequent vision. Now, I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to interject here, okay? In order for this man to have command over Gabriel, he would have to be higher. Otherwise, you can't command. That's the point that Heiser is referencing, okay? Back to Heiser for a second. In Daniel 10, the prophet once again sees a vision involving a glorious man clothed in vision. And here's the quote from Scripture. On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the Grand River, that is the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of the multitude. Then I heard the sound of his words, and as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in deep sleep with my face to the ground. And behold, a hand touched me. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second. We already kind of noticed. I hope that you noticed some of this language in here about the waist and the flaming torches and all that stuff. It should already be coming to kind of into view with the book of Revelation imagery. Okay. Most of this stuff should really kind of hit you with the imagery. Now, all of that you can find in Revelation 1, Revelation 10. In chapter 1, it's Jesus, and in chapter 10, it's a mighty angel. Again, Angelomorphic Christology, okay? So in Daniel, we have this mystery man. And this is how the mystery man is described. Isn't there a song about the mystery man? I think there is, right? This is the one that gets, that commands, okay? So here we have Daniel 10, 9 through 14. I want you to understand what's kind of happening in this. When I heard the sound of his words, I fell into a trance, face to the ground. But then a hand touched me and roused me to his hands and knees. He said to me, Daniel, greatly beloved, pay attention to the words that I am going to speak to you. Stand on your feet, for I have now been sent to you. So while he was speaking this word to me, I stood up trembling. He said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me 21 days. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. And I left him there with the prince of the kingdom of Persia, and have come to help you understand what is to happen to your people at the end of days. For there is a further vision for those days. Now, the question is this. It's not really, let me make this statement rather. This superior man, this man who is above Gabriel, and apparently above Michael, if you caught who's commanding who, okay, who is above Michael because Michael is assisting this guy, this person, this entity. This man himself was sent by someone. And we don't know who in Daniel 10. Okay, it doesn't say. but the implication is that it's from God. So God is sending maybe his angel, sending this thing, okay? But you get the implication, I hope. Now, we have a figure that is above Michael, above Gabriel, when we're talking about in command. Michael is, I hope you caught this. I'll put it back on the screen. Michael is one of the chief princes. He is not the chief prince. That is very important for any of you that come from Adventism and understand how Adventists like to conflate Michael with the archangel and turn Michael into Christ. But he is one of the chief princes. Why? Because he's above Gabriel, and Gabriel is one of the archangels. So we have this superior figure who himself gets sent. The implication is from God, okay, or by God. But he can still be God, because Exodus 23, if you remember, some other passage that we already referred to, deals with this whole to Yahweh thing. That's kind of what should be in the back of your mind, okay? Now, let's go back to Daniel. Okay, Daniel 10, 15 to 19. While he was speaking these words, I turned my face. Okay, I'm not going to read through all these again. But when we get down here to verse 19, do not fear, be strong, courageous. When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Now, just a little bit of a side note. In reference to this, we're not going to have time to do this. Again, if you want to jump into the Discord chat, I would encourage you to connect with me on this. We don't have time right now to go off on this rabbit trail. But if you do a search inside of Scripture on the concept of fear not or peace be with you, those should be things that you kind of connect with angelic things, okay? If you connect that, if you look up those things, it's just another flavor of why it might be something else. Okay, just do a search on that. I'm not going to feed too much of that, but that's just a whole nother rabbit trail. Okay. Okay. So what does Daniel say? And he spoke to me. I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Okay, so Michael in this passage, Michael's the good guy. He helped. Okay, again, Michael is called the Prince of Israel. But this figure that's being described is not Michael. This figure is referring to Michael. Michael is coming to assist this figure. So and this is really, really important. We can't conflate the figures. When we conflate them, we get the Adventist theology that Michael is Jesus. Now, let's be very transparent. This is not a dialogue on Adventism, but the reason why that's the case is because Ellen White actually makes references to that being the case. And so therefore, they have to conflate the idea. They just have to, okay, if they're going to honor what Ellen White says. But it's very clear, just looking at the text, that these figures are different. They're very different. Michael is one of the chief princes. There are more than one chief princes. And Gabriel is also kind of connected, but lower than. But this guy, whoever this entity is, whoever this figure is, commands the chief prince. That's what's happening in the text. They're different people. They're different figures. Okay. So to summarize this, I want to go back to Heiser's book, And again, I'm going to have to do a quick search on this because again, I didn't put this in. But we're gonna land the plane hopefully here, because to kind of connect all these together, I want to. I'm finding this. Let's see. Here we go. Where are we at? Here we go. I got it. I get all excited about this. This right here just completely obliterates the heretical teachings that Michael is Christ. That's it. Just if you just sit down and really work through the text and what the text is saying, I don't think it's actually very complicated. It is important. This is Heiser. It is important to note several things. First, this man is not identified as Gabriel. Second, the speaking man was opposed by the Prince of Persia and Greece. Third, the man is not only distinct from Gabriel, he is also not Michael, since he refers to Michael in the third person. Michael assisted this unidentified figure in his spiritual warfare against the Prince of Persia. Fourth, the unidentified figure later touches Daniel to strengthen him, informing him in the first person, I will return to fight against the Prince of Persia, adding that he expects the Prince of Greece will also be part of the battle. While the man is never identified in Daniel 10, it is clear he is neither Gabriel nor Michael. We meet the man again in Daniel 12 that says, at that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge over your people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never before. There is a nation till that time, but at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others stood. Two others stood, one on this bank of the stream and one on the bank of the stream. The one said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the stream, how long shall it be till the end of wonders? The man clothed in linen takes us back to the initial appearance of this mysterious figure in Daniel 10:5. Who is this man? I would argue, this is Heiser, that he is to be identified with the prince of the host mentioned in Daniel 8:11, the one who the magnified little horn opposed. In this regard, Bamfide comments, and this is another scholar, who then is this man? The author does not identify him with Gabriel, which he could easily have done. Daniel has already met Gabriel and could have recognized him if there were a renewed acquaintanceship. The man whom he sees in chapter 10 is to be identified with the man who had spoken to Gabriel and sent him to Daniel. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai and called, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. The man whom Daniel sees in chapter 10, clothed in linen, is described again in 12:6 as the man clothed in linen who was above the waters of the stream. He is therefore the man whose voice Daniel heard coming from between the banks of the Ulai when he first saw Gabriel. The man is not Michael. Indeed, he appears to have a higher status than Michael, the patron of Israel, according to chapter 10:21. There is none who contends by my side against these except Michael, your prince. This man seems not to be in charge of any particular nation, but supports those who are on his side. He is therefore to be identified with the prince of the host. This prince of the host is not Michael, for although Michael is the patron of Israel and an archangel, he is not chief of the archangels in intertestamental literature. And then there's a reference there. In the book of Daniel, there is no possibility that Michael might be the chief prince. He is known as one of the chief princes, whereas the prince of the host is called the prince of princes. The man described in chapter 10, 5, and 6 is certainly one of the highest angels, a prince and a heavenly military commander. Neither is he to be identified with Gabriel, for he addresses Gabriel himself. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling on this because I really want you guys to get the rest of this. These observations are important in light of my earlier contention. This is Heiser now, that the commander of Yahweh's host in Joshua 5:14 is the angel of Yahweh, the visible embodiment of Yahweh himself. This commander cannot be Michael because Michael is one among other chief princes. The visible Yahweh would have no such company. Now, I know that was a lot, but this does open up an entirely different topic. Who is Gabriel? Who is Michael? All of this stuff, okay? We're not going to have time today to move any further. I was hoping we'd get further, but I lost about 5-10 minutes because of that computer blow up. I apologize for that. But we're going to pause here, and then we'll come back next time. I will not be able to be on live stream next Friday. I'll be traveling back from Tennessee, and so I won't be able to be on a live stream for the Revelation series next week. I will keep you posted whether or not maybe we do it on Saturday or maybe Sunday. I'll have to see for sure. But do me a favor, pick up, if you really wanted to dig in, Michael Heiser's book, Angels, would be really, really, really good to wrestle with. And I would encourage any of you that have contended with, I know there's been a lot of hot topic stuff that's related to inside of the Adventist framework as it relates to Michael and Christ and Gabriel and all the ins and outs of all that. This right here gets at the meat of that. And I will say, if you can sit someone down and work through the text, making the connections, you will find that there is a clear hierarchical structure that connects Gabriel, Michael, this other figure, and clearly shows that this man in linen has to be different. It has to be biblically, textually grounded. It has to be different than both Gabriel and Michael. That has to be the case. So it's conclusive in my mind. I'm emphatic about this, that biblically speaking, Michael is not Christ. You cannot conflate those two. Now, we'll go through more. I'm going to open up some search panels. We're going to go through some archangel stuff. We're going to look at passages that relate to Gabriel. We'll go through all of that. I was hoping we'd get through all of that in depth. Once we get through that section, just so you all know, next time, we're going to talk about SAR language, which comes up in Joshua 5:14. Go check it out. SAR is kind of the commander. We'll talk about that. That's connected to Prince language in Daniel. So we'll get through all that. And then once we get through kind of some of those things, we're going to look at First Chronicles. We're going to look at some more Daniel stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Antiochus. We're going to work through the Prince of the Host, all that stuff. I was hoping to get through that today, but that will help us understand the little horn items. Daniel 11, we're going to get through some of that. Once we get through all of that and kind of land on this, then we're going to move into kind of the latter part of Revelation 10. So there's going to be, this is part 1. There will absolutely be a part 2. I don't know if there will have to be a part 3 on this or not. I'm hoping the next time we'll be able to get through all of that in a part 2 on Daniel or on Revelation chapter 10. And again, what are we focused on? The backdrop to where all this imagery is. Friends, thank you so much for being here. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, share this to others. If you will also do me another favor, if you haven't yet, please do scan the code, connect. We'd love to have you join in the Discord channel. If you feel kind of compelled to help the ministry, I'd be honored for you to check out the Patreon link where I put up kind of comments and posts, and I'll eventually be doing some live stuff there as well for those that are Patreon supporters. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for those of you that have supported me financially. But also, most importantly, thank you for all those that are supporting me with your prayers. That is way, way, way more important, and I appreciate that so much. So God bless. We'll see you in the next session. Stay in the Word of God. Stay focused, and let's all image Him well in the way that we worship Him and the way that we study His Word. So God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.